20th century, psychology transformed thanks to cognitive revolution. So what exactly is cognitive psychology? Before we begin, let us define cognition. Cognition is a term that describes the process of complexes of knowledge itself. In short, cognitive psychology is the study of the mind and the perception, attention, memory, and procedures involved when we receive, collect, and retrieve information. Because cognitive psychology is concerned with how people think and process information, it should come as no surprise that there are numerous applications of cognitive psychology in everyday life.
In terms of attention, a person's cognitive processing systems can become overloaded at times. In learning, this is the study of new cognitive or conceptual information that is taken in and how that process occurs in learning. In memory, the study of human memory makes up a significant portion of cognitive psychology.
In this part, we will discuss the philosophical antecedents of psychology. The rationalism versus empiricism. A rationalist believes that the route to knowledge is through logical analysis. In contrast, Aristotle, a naturalist and biologist, as well as a philosopher, was an empiricist. An empiricist believes that we acquire knowledge via empirical evidence, that is, we obtain evidence through experience and observation.
The contrasting ideas of rationalism and empiricism became prominent with the French rationalist René Descartes and British empiricist John Locke. Descartes viewed the introspective reflective method as being superior to empirical methods for finding truth. Locke had more enthusiasm for empirical observation. He coined the term tabula rasa, which he believed that humans are born without knowledge and therefore must seek knowledge through empirical observation. In the 18th century, German philosopher Immanuel Kant dialectically synthesized the view of Descartes and Locke, arguing that both rationalism and empiricism have their place.
For the psychological antecedents of cognitive psychology, it has structuralism, functionalism, associationism, behaviorism, and Gestalt psychology. Structuralism. German psychologist Wilhelm Wundt, known as the father of psychology, founded structuralism, which is the first major school of thought in psychology and was identified by Edward B. Titchener. Structuralism focuses on the cognitive perceptions of the mind and its structure by breaking perceptions down into their constituent parts. In other words, it analyzes the perspective in order to better understand it, which is the most fundamental in understanding consciousness based on its colors, size, relationships, etc. Functionalism. William James is a physician, philosopher, and psychologist who is a leader in guiding functionalism toward pragmatism. In functionalism, this is a way to understand what those people do and why they do it. This means, understanding the human mind and behavior is studying the processes of how and why the mind works as it does, rather than studying the structural content and elements of the mind. Also, functionalism is focused to understand the adaptive purpose of the function of mental processes. Associationism. The Association of Hermann Ebbinghaus was the first attempt to systematically implement the concepts of association in the late 1800s. Like functionalism, associationism is less a school of psychology than a way of thinking. Associationism is a method that looks at how things or concepts might be cognitively linked to produce learning. In short, we may learn from it how occurrences relate to one another so that we may learn.
Behaviorism. In the 20th century, the nearest heir to associationism is behaviorism, whose principles of conditioning are based on the association of responses to stimuli and on one's association of those stimuli with positive or negative reinforcement. Also, like associationism, behaviorism emphasizes the effects of nurture or environment over innate nature or characteristics. Gestalt psychology. Gestalt psychology is a school of thought that considers the whole individual, including the mind and behavior. This suggests that our minds often see objects as parts of a larger whole rather than focusing on every discrete aspect of the environment around us. However, it demonstrates that the structures as a whole have distinct characteristics that differ from their complex analysis, which attempts to explain how the brain perceives experiences.
Cognitive psychologists use psychological research in order to investigate how humans think using a wide variety of methods. First, laboratory or controlled experiment. In this kind of method, an experimenter will usually conduct a research in a laboratory. It involves the manipulation of variables to establish a cause and effect relationship. Second is psychobiological research, which investigate the relationship between a cognitive performance and its structure. The third method is the self-report, in which the researchers use an individual's own account of cognitive process and its recollection about a particular experiences.
In very specific circumstances, these methods may provide the only way to gather information. An example is the case of Jeannie, a girl who was locked in a room for 13 years that result of her severe physical impairments and no language skills. Through case study methods, information was collected about how she later began to learn language. However, case study and naturalistic observation may be used to complement findings from the laboratory experiments. These two methods of cognitive research offer high ecological validity, the degree to which particular findings in one environmental context. Digital computers played a fundamental role to the emergence of the study of cognitive psychology. One kind of influence is indirect through models of human cognition. Through computer stimulation, researchers program imitate a given human function or process.
In contrast, cognitive psychologists often broaden and deepen their understanding of cognition through research in cognitive science. Cognitive science is a cross-disciplinary field that uses ideas and methods from cognitive psychology, psychobiology, artificial intelligence, philosophy, linguistics, and anthropology. Cognitive scientists use these ideas and methods to focus on the study of how humans acquire and use knowledge.